Hi, welcome to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student of nature-led gardening and a person who knows we all do better when we all do better. And can we extend this famous phrase from Paul Wellstone to the more than human worlds? When the birds are better, are we better? When the bees are better, are we better? And let's connect this with our food system and, of course, the Minnesota State Fair. So, welcome to Food Freedom Radio. Joining me now is Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farmer Alliance. Welcome to Food Freedom Radio, Courtney.
Thanks, Laura.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit. You've got a wonderful local food background, so tell me a little bit about all the wonderful things you have done, and then a little bit about the Wild Food Alliance.
Sure. So I was a organic farmer for 16 years at the U of M, running the student organic farm. From there I went and worked at the Hort Society for a couple of years, worked at Druma Wild Health for a season, and about 2.5 years ago started with Wild Farm Alliance and have been doing their Midwest programming. They've been an organization that's been around for 26 years, has largely been kind of West Coast based until I got started here in the Midwest for them. And it's been super fun putting up nest boxes on farms, just helping farmers create habitat on their farms for birds and pollinators and wildlife, and figuring out how to coexist with all those creatures.
We all do better when we all do better. Do you agree that that includes the more than human world?
Definitely, yes. All the insects, like we need the insects, like they are so much of the food web depends on the microorganisms in the soil and the insects and the birds and everybody. Yeah.
And the microorganisms in my gut is connected to the health of the soil and the health of your soil. And so we've kind of birthed or spawn a food system that does not really honor the web of life. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. Yeah. And we really have to do our part to help support all of the wild nature out there so that we can all be healthy, not just humans, but the ecosystems and all the creatures and critters that are out there.
So I encourage people to check out the website on Wild Farm Alliance. And one of the things, here's a quote: "We do not have the right to farm nature out of existence." So how is the dominant food system farming nature out of existence?
I think that a lot of that has to do with kind of the monoculture, farming fence row to fence row, all of that mentality, the sort of get big or get out kind of thing. Not recognizing that there are, so many benefits to just having nature on farms and having space and if you have a monoculture of one crop, that also means that you're going to have a pest. You have the sink for all the pests and all the diseases to go to that one crop, versus if you have a huge diversity of crops and animals on the farm, all those things, then you're going to potentially have more resilience and be able to weather the effects of climate change and all of those things so much better and easier.
And with that concentration, of course, the solution right now that's been exercised is to use a lot of pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that there are high cancer rates among those farm areas with the pesticide use. Any thoughts on that pesticide use and how that impacts both the birds and the bees and life?
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful for everyone. It's awful for us. It's awful for the insects. We're seeing this huge decline in both the insect world and in the bird world. It directly translates where, in the last 50 years, we've lost 70% of the insects and 70% of the birds. And that's just nuts. When there are so many other, there are great alternatives to those pesticides where you can harness nature to actually do that work for you. You can save the money on the pesticides. You can save, and in addition, get all those health benefits for yourself by not using those pesticides and your customers and all those things. So yeah.
Well, so we all do better and we all do better. And right now we're not doing very well. I mean, there's some scary stats out there about how little of topsoil we have left. We have stats about the nitrates in our water, about the higher cancer rates, and the epidemic of anxiety and depression. And I think there's a lot of evidence that these are interconnected and interwoven and entangled problems that actually are at the root of a lot of the problems is a economic
Nature-based
system that's not
solution.
grounded on reality, which is the living world.
Yeah. And like nature is the solution for so many of those things. Like it's the solution for like us and our depression and anxiety. It's the solution for like, I mean, like really planting some native plants in your yard. It's amazing what that does for your whole world.
100%. And I've been doing a lot of permaculture, and it is so beautiful to walk. I have a little part of my yard that's never been mowed over and never been the topsoil, and it just feels so alive. And it is like instant Prozac, I mean,
Yeah.
it's really calming, and it's free.
Hmm. Yeah. I find
Oh,
that too with my own yard, just having like more and more habitat for pollinators and getting to see the butterflies flitter by the window when I'm working is just like, and then when I take a break, I go walk out there and I pull a couple weeds and I get to see all the bumblebees and I get to see all the life, and it just connects you to all that. And it's awesome.
and it's really fun to watch. I know, I think it's Heather Holm, if I remember. She has a great book on bees, on the different types of bees. And so we can watch the bees, we can watch the birds, watch the frogs, and and then as we observe that more than human world, it enlivens us in infinite and miraculous ways. I don't know if I'm being a little
No,
out
I think
there, but
you're,
what the
you're
heck?
totally right. Yeah,
I can say
exactly.
miraculous, can I? It's a beautiful
Definitely.
world. Yeah, it's a beautiful world. And so, okay, so what's happening at the Minnesota State Fair?
Yeah,
Oh,
so this year at the Minnesota State Fair, we have in the Eco Experience building in the local food area, we are putting a bird on it on farms. We're talking all about bird friendly farming, what it is. We're highlighting farmers that are utilizing practices that support birds and support nature. We're talking about the different birds that you can find on farms, like a tree swallow. Tree swallows eat so many. They eat about 18 insects per visit every 5 minutes for 15 hours a day. So that means that a 20-day nesting period, two parents are going to deliver about 120,000 insects to their nestlings. So like it's huge benefit, and that's just like
by
one
the way, do you
nest.
have to go to a store and buy pesticides in order for them to do this? Or the birds, do they
They
charge
have
you for
to
this
put up a
service?
nest box. Yeah, like incredible, right? So we're talking about practices like silvopasture and alley cropping. We're talking about birds like the eastern meadowlark. We're talking about windbreaks. There's a really awesome like highlighting how like gr- um, the goldenrods are actually like they goldenrods are used by like the plant itself, all the parts of it. There are a bunch of different birds that actually use that for nesting habitat, and then in addition, the goldenrod species of plants, they like host like 88 different insects, all of which feed birds. And then like the chickadee is one of our favorites. It's such a cute little happy bird. It actually like eats a whole bunch of pests that are on farms. So you've got them eating different moths and those Colorado potato beetles and the spongy moth and the cankerworms and leafhoppers and aphids and fungus gnats, like all these different pests that they're eating. So we're really highlighting all the different ecosystem services that birds can provide on farms, and how farmers can add habitats to create the habitat for those birds that will then harness that. So instead of like buying pesticides, you buy some native plants and get them started and growing on farms, and it's all very fun and exciting. Yeah.
It's a Wild Farm Alliance. You have something on your website that if people are having a pest problem, they can go on and figure out and learn what bird is good for their pest problem and how to attract that bird to their farm.
Yeah, so if you go to wildfarmalliance.org/explore and you want to do explore-mn, although if you just go to explore, you'll have like different options like California and New York are also on there. But we have one for Minnesota, which is Also, like probably 95% accurate for Wisconsin too. So if people are listening for Wisconsin,
maybe even a little bit of Iowa.
And then you can essentially just put in your pests. So earlier we were talking about how you're dealing with these like scale insects. So I looked up scales and it came up with 2 different birds that eat scale insects. So we have the white-breasted nuthatch, which is a nest box bird. So that's one that if like you can get to create a nest in its nest box nearby, that'll help create habitat for it too. But then there's also like other plants that you can that it'll tell you that you can add as well. Things like black walnuts and Douglas fir, hackberry, silver maple, all of those. Or then there's also like the white throat or the yellow-throated vireo, which uses oaks and pines, and then they will also eat scale insects too. So that's a really cool resource where it's kind of the beta version of a bigger app that we're building that will do help farmers with on-farm habitat assessment for birds. And it's been a really fun data project to dive into and look at all these interactions between the birds and the pests and the plants that support them. I'm in geeky, nerdy plant bug bird heaven, so working on that.
Geeky plant bird heaven. Okay, geeky plant bird heaven. And can you imagine a time in, well, I was gonna say the future, but even right now, how the decisions we make right now impact us now and in the future. And geeky bird heaven sounds kind of nice.
Yes.
A lot better than Cancer Ellie, doesn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just really fun to be able to like look at pests as sources of food for birds, right? Instead of like thinking about them as, something that you have to kill and manage and spray with something. Instead, like thinking of them as bird food. It's kind of
We all do better when we all do better, and that's true, maybe even most true for what we consider the pest, right? And
yeah.
how we and there are times to regulate certain pests, and I know you've got a big background in this. So, how would you address that that idea of regulating pest while at the same time honoring it?
Well, I mean, I think that there's something to be said for letting nature figure it out for itself. Like I have a vivid memory of back when I was farming, like wandering around the fruit trees and not noticing the aphids that were all over the tree, but instead noticing like the ladybird beetles that were all over the larvae that look like little alligators, like noticing them all over the trees and then being like, oh look, they're eating the aphids. I don't have to do anything. I've created the habitat where these, beneficial insects are going to come and take care of the pests for me. And so I don't have to do anything. I just, get to enjoy watching them do their work. And,
Oh, the life of a plant nerd. We just get to sit back and watch them do their work. Yay!
Yeah,
So we're gonna
exactly.
take a break, and we're talking about bird-friendly farming. And with me right now is Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farm Alliance. They're going to be at the Eco Building in the State Fair. We're taking a break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Food Freedom Radio, and I'm Laura Hedlund.
All right, on break now. Unfortunately, no Brett.
No Brett, and my Outbook is still not working. Maybe because I'm not. Is our internet not working down here? Maybe I have
down here. Yeah.
Maybe I have to do something. Wi-Fi not connected.
Oh, that's probably yeah.
Wi-Fi. Well, usually my phone will do that. Wi-Fi AM 950.
Yep, should be right up on the.
Oh, thank you.
There. Yep. Get you in. Yeah, it sounds like it may have just gotten disconnected from the Wi-Fi, so should be good if you reconnect.
Yeah, usually it sends out anyhow, though, so I don't know what's going on there. Usually my phone's all right. Unable to install. Well, I'm not trying to install anything. I'm not trying to install anything. I'm just. See, this is why life is just too confusing. All right. But did Brett respond to you at all?
Nope, I didn't get anything.
Okay, I'm still not getting an outbox. Not there. All right.
Are you talking to your email?
Yeah, the email's not.
Oh yeah.
Now it went out.
I was gonna say I can make sure our email's actually.
I think it just went out. I think. All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I wonder if our email was down temporarily. It's back up for
Oh,
me now. I don't know.
is it back up for you? Okay,
I was just speculating. I could be wrong.
but you're also
Based-
trying too, Courtney, right? Okay. Well, this might be recorded. All right. Well, we're ready to just rock and roll. You and I can talk. I think we got a lot. I don't think it's a problem. So
Yeah.
All right. Both ready to roll back in for number 2?
I am.
Segment 2? All right. Sounds good. Here we go.
Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headland, a student of nature-led gardening and a person who knows we all do better when we all do better, and we can extend this to the more than human world. When we farm in a way that helps birds, does also help us. There's an interesting display at the Minnesota State Fair in the Eco Building, and to talk to us about that is Courtney Cheetah. She's with the Wild Farm Alliance. Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio, Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us what's going on at the State Fair.
Yeah, so we've got an exhibit in the Eco Experience building in the local food area that is all about birds and bird-friendly farming. We've got, the mainstays of the Eco Experience food area where we've got some local food sampling happening. We've got a couple of fun partner organizations.
Okay, you said free food sampling. Let's get to the priority here. Is there particular times when there's free food sampling, and what's being sampled?
I think it's this is not my
it is on the website.
But 7 Sundays is going to be there. I think most during the day. I think the Eco Experience building is open from like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and they're going to be there sampling a bunch of their really cool like breakfast cereal foods, which is kind of fun. I know that in addition to that, I think like Peace Coffee is there today. I think that there's, a bunch of different food sampling that's happening, even in addition to the 7 Sundays where like, I think the Lake Winds Food Co-op and Seward Co-op and River Co-op markets are all going to be there. Organic Valley is going to be there. So there's going to be some yummy treats to be had in the Eco Experience local foods area. In addition, I know that like the Savannah Institute is going to be there talking about some of the research that they've been doing, looking at like the acoustic monitoring of birds in some of these like agroforestry practices, like the silvopasture and that research, which is super cool. In addition, my other hat, the Minseed Project, we're going to be there on 3 different days giving away native seeds. We've got about 16 different varieties of seeds that all support birds, so we'll be giving those away. So yeah, it's just lots going on. It's going to be super fun. There's also a really cool thing where you can like go decide which bird you relate the best to and then get a temporary tattoo of that bird to put on. Super fun. There's also in the whole Eco Experience building, there's also like a bingo card thing where you can go and answer a question and get a stamp. And then once you've gotten a stamp, there's like a walleye pin this year. And so there's just tons of stuff.
Minnesotans really know how to celebrate. Let's just say it. A walleye pin.
Yep. Yeah, it goes back to that kind of like I think the big theme of the Eco Experience this year is about the river and how we've, been able to clean up our rivers and have habitat in those rivers for the fish, which again, those fish and those like aquatic insects, they all feed the birds. So it's all connected. It's all interconnected. It's really exciting to just get to be a part of this.
And I think reading the newspaper and knowing things like what's happening to our oceans, and you mentioned what's happening to the birds and the insect collapse, and that can be so hard to sort of wake up to those key truths of life. And yet, despite the fact that that is that hard, there's also a lot of beauty in understanding the grief that is being experienced by the more than human world.
Yeah, and I think that I was reading something recently about how the grief that we feel is really just an extrapolation or a representation of the love that we feel, right? And like
Right.
you have to embrace both, because if you don't, acknowledge that grief, by acknowledging your grief, you're acknowledging that you love those things and that they're important. And so, I think there's also like so many opportunities to turn that grief into hope and into action, looking at what you can do to help change things. Is we can all do something.
We can all do something, and food is the center point for our agency in a lot of ways. I mean, it's a place that grows agency within us. So
Yeah.
I can choose bird-friendly, bee-friendly foods. I may not. It's not so obvious. It may take a little extra thinking, but I can choose that.
Yeah, I mean, we like Michael Pollan talks about how we vote with our fork 3 times a day, and we get to make those choices, and they do have an impact. And I think that there's what's exciting to me about this time right now is that we have the solutions that we need. It's just a matter of implementing them. If it's trading in your gas guzzler for an EV, if it's putting solar panels on your roof, if it's riding an e-bike everywhere in the summertime instead of driving, if it's there's all these awesome solutions. Planting native plants, I mean, that's where my heart and soul and passion is these days. And just making those plants and those seeds accessible to everyone, so that we can create habitat and we can have more insects out there. It's awesome how like 3 or 4 years ago I feel like I barely saw any monarch butterflies, and I put in a pocket prairie in my front yard, and now I see monarch butterflies every day.
I also see monarch butterflies every day, and it started for me. Milkweed just started growing in the yard, and this is when I switched from more of a permaculture. And just say, I think you were one of the permaculture teachers in the permaculture class I did whenever that was. Whatever, life is a blur. 10, 15 years ago, something like that. But having the milkweed just take over the take over the gardens, and just letting it be has been a real ability, a real pathway for me to walk beyond my fear. It's like, oh no, that's going to take over my honeybush berries, and then I'm not going to get any fruit. It's like, no, nature's fine. It's all going to work itself out. Just trust it, live it, but that's a big part too of being able to be in grief for the natural world. Is it opens the ability to trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that the plants that show up might be the plants that are supposed to be there. I've been having this like little mini existential crisis all summer because I created a new area in my yard that is now like another little pocket prairie, and I planted a bunch of things there last fall, but then all these other things keep coming up, and I like don't know what they are, and I look them up, and it turns out they're native, and I'm like, oh, maybe they need to be here too. And like then I dive into you do the deep dive into like, okay, well, what is this plant really? And it's actually a host plant for this rare butterfly or this rare insect, and you're like, oh, well then yeah, it's really supposed to be there. And then you just have to like do the mind shift of like, nope, it gets to be here. And some of them I'm even like saving seeds for so I can share them with other people, and it's so fun to just get to see that. And I have I have like a field thistle in my front yard for the second year in a row, and it's like one of my favorite plants. I went from like trying to kill Canada thistle, which is a invasive, not good thistle, to like embracing the field thistle, which is native, and having it in my yard and having it bloom and having it those monarchs are circling it every day, and the bumblebees that love it, and it's a mind shift, but it's a fun and exciting one to get to experience.
Well, and since we're in this time of climate crisis and rampant anxiety, I guess I can simplify it. Maybe a mind shift might be helpful.
Yeah.
And we all do better when we all do better, and that includes the natural world. We're going to take a break. You're listening to Food Freedom Radio. With us is Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farm Alliance. We'll be right back talking about the display at the Minnesota State Fair and the birds and the bees and the farming system.
Right, back on pause again now.
I don't even think I need to pause. I think I'm ready to
You're
just
ready to
hop
hop
in.
back
Is there
in?
anything you want to make sure you say? I guess Brett is not joining us. He hasn't responded to you. Has he? Is there a voicemail I got? I should make sure this. No.
I haven't heard anything.
All right. And I'm going to. No, I haven't heard anything either. So downloading 2 messages. Nope, nothing. Okay. Let's hop back. Well, I'm glad we had 2 guests. Okay.
All right, you ready to go back in?
I am ready to go back in.
Sounds good. Here we go for segment number 3.
Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headland, a student of nature-led gardening and a person who knows we all do better when we all do better, and this includes the more than human worlds. And so, what if the birds do better? Do we do better? If the bees do better, do we do better? Heck, yes, right. Yeah. So with us right now is Courtney Gita. She's with the Wild Farm Alliance. Tell us a little bit more about the partnership with the State Fair and the Eco Experience and how people can learn more about bird-friendly farming.
Yeah, so Renewing the Countryside, who's the longtime host of the Eco Experience local food corner, they've partnered with Wild Farm Alliance this year, with the Savannah Institute, with the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program, which that's a really cool program where farmers can actually get certified that their products are actually helping birds. So it's often like beef and bison projects at this point that they're doing, regeneratively grazing. That is, they've certified about 5 million acres right now, and those are in grocery stores on shelves in all 50 states. So that's super
so you can look for that Audubon label in your grocery stores.
Yeah.
Wow. And I assume that the Audubon is protecting their identity and is actually checking the integrity of those products in some ways.
Yep.
Beautiful. Exactly. Love that.
Yeah. We've also partnered with Greenland's Blue Waters, and they're all about those perennial cropping systems that keep the land covered. And so that's also a really important part of this whole regenerative farming practices that support nature. Kernza is a big alternative crop here in Minnesota, and that's one of the crops that's getting highlighted. I'm not sure if there are any samples of that one specifically coming in, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are.
I know 40th Century Grain is going to be there one day, and so there's also some chefs doing their sampling of their products. I know Chef Lachelle, I think, is going to be there. And the other thing I saw on Renewing the Countryside's website that I actually got a little excited about, you can look on previous years, and they have recipes from the State Fair. So they have some fun recipes too that people can, learning to cook and make food from bird-friendly, bee-friendly ingredients.
Yeah.
And I know there's a couple cookbooks out there that do exactly this. So so tell me a little bit more about Wild Farm Alliance and how you guys are trying to lift up a living food system. Would you like that phrase,
yeah.
Living food system?
Definitely, yeah. Farming with nature, all those things. We got to do a really awesome field day earlier this year in July down at Sharing Our Roots Farm, where we were highlighting birds and beavers and bats and pollinators. So we had all these, the bees, the birds, the bats, all the things, all the bee words, and looking at how they you can farm you can coexist with them, how you can do farming that actually supports those living creatures, and actually how they can actually help benefit, not only the farm, but whole ecosystems. Like with all the wildfires that we're having up north, the beavers are really, really crucial in terms of helping suppress fire, because where beavers are, they create this island of green, and the water that helps create fire breaks is really, really important. All kinds of fun stuff like that. Just trying to share more and more with people about how, farming with nature really, it benefits nature, but it also benefits all of us. To just,
Yeah, earlier it's been a while, but I did do a show on the book Beaverland, and how important beavers are to the ecosystem. It's really surprising, and actually, I'm going to use that word miraculous. I don't know if I want to use
Yeah.
miraculous as much as awe-inspiring. It's just,
Mhm.
but that's not awful. No, I'm just we whatever. As,
Awful in the best way possible, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
awful in the best way possible. Maybe this means that maybe there's some reason why we have to connect greed and joy, so it's in that word,
Mhm.
awful, and, but that anyhow.
Yeah.
So, let's ground this back on the state fair. Where's the location of the Eco Experience? I know it's been there for 20 years, I think.
Yeah, it is up on, oh man, I'm trying to, let me give me
I know
one
you
sec.
can look for. I used to be able to look for the wind tower, and I'm going to be in the booth a little bit with the Minnesota Renewable Energy Society. And I had met a longtime activist with them, and I was like, "Are you getting really depressed because of the situation in the world?" And this guy's been fighting for a green world, Doug Shoemaker, for his whole life. He's been so dedicated, and he just was so he was so optimistic. No, a lot of really wonderful things are happening right now under the ground. There is so much that's working to emerge. There's a whole new technologies that are coming up, and so we can be living in a world that's sustainable for us and sustainable for future generation, and in an economic system that is more just and that is more living and feels better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably, gosh, close to 20 years ago now, I found this quote about how, like, it's not naive optimism in the face of all the challenges that we have. Like, really, optimism is the only option that we have. Like, we have to be positive about it, because if we're negative and doom and gloom, it just makes it that much harder to change and to see the future. Like, we have to envision the future that we want and work towards it. And so I think that's what we're doing, in really exciting ways. Yeah.
And doing it in the real world. So let's talk about the real things on the ground that the Wild Farm Alliance has. And maybe we need to back up and just say a little bit about Wild Farm Alliance. And here's some details from your website. Here's some truths. I was going to say facts, but I think they're truths. The current rate of species extinction is a significant and unprecedented biodiversity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We know that, right?
Yep.
Climate change is real and a growing threat to us and the entire planet.
Yep.
We know that? Okay. Industrial scale agriculture is the primary cause of ecosystem and species loss, and jeopardizes family size farms. We know that.
Yep.
Protected and interconnected wildlands are essential to assuring biological diversity and sustaining healthy rural landscapes. We know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say we know all these things. So then what do we do? Tell us what to do.
Yeah. So we have a couple of different really cool programs. We have a farmland flyways trail where farms can actually put up nest boxes and put up perches and different things, and then add their farms to the map to actually show, inspire other people. And this actually is very fun how much this works. I've had several farmer friends be like, yeah, I want to be on the map. I want to inspire my neighbors to put up more nest boxes. And that's been really, really fun. We also have a farmland wildways where we want to plant hedgerows to the moon and back, essentially, across our landscape to create this habitat, because those hedgerows that aren't, they are maybe 10, 15 feet wide, and however long we can make them on farms, their habitat sinks. They're like sinks for life for all the insects, the birds, other wildlife, all those things. And then the farmland waterways too is the riparian areas of the farm, making sure that those are also habitats and corridors for wildlife is really, really important. So those are kind of the big main three program areas that we're working on. In addition to helping support biodiversity, and it's all about it's the songbirds, it's the grassland birds, it's even the raptors and the predators like hawks and owls and kestrels, because they can help control the rodents on the farm. It's also the woodland birds. It's all the things, and we can really the cool thing about the exhibit this year is we're really exploring all the ways in which Minnesota farmers can create farms that welcome birds, that are going to support biodiversity. They're going to strengthen the natural pest control, and they're going to support more resilient agricultural landscapes, which then feed us. And then, that goes back to that voting with our forks and choosing that food that's going to support all of this.
So those three main project areas that the Wild Farm Alliance works in is one, the waterways, and I love the phrase "hedge roads to the moon." That's kind of a fun way just to highlight that. And then the bird boxes, which on your website people can donate like $50 and get a bird box planted on a farm. So so I encourage people to check out Wild Farm Alliance. There's also on your website a great video from farmers in Finlayson in Minnesota. You want to share a bit about that farm?
Yeah, there's a really great tree swallow video. Last spring we got to go to 3 different farms in the Midwest and make videos about highlighting those farms, highlighting the research practices that are supporting those farms. So we've got Hannah Bernhardt from Medicine Creek Farm highlighted right now on our homepage, and she has like 36 or more nest boxes on her farm. And I actually got to go this spring, and we have like a little GoPro camera that we can set up and take video of the mom and dad birds running back and forth, to feed those baby tree swallows with the.
Can people watch that video?
There's within the video. Check it out. Yeah. It's super cool. It's so fun to just see, those parents feeding their young back and forth. So fun. And there's essentially before she had these nest boxes up on her farm, which she partnered with a school to a shop class at a high school to build. She had these big barrels that were covered in the sticky tape, trying to control the flies that way. And it was a mess, and it was really not fun. And the birds are so much more fun to just feed them those flies. And she's farming with cattle and with sheep, and there's almost no flies on her farm because the birds are swooping around and eating them. And you get to hear the bobolinks on her farm. You get to hear the eastern meadowlarks. It's just so lovely and beautiful. In addition to just all the biodiversity that's also there. We were wandering around her farm last spring, and the blue-eyed grass was blooming, and I was like, look at that, you've got blue-eyed grass in your pasture. How cool is that? And just, so many fun things are happening. So yeah, definitely check that out. We've also got in that video that also talks about, we talked to two farmers from Missouri who actually did a Sierra Grant research project on the tree swallows, and looking at how they, control the flies on the farm. And so the research is backing up all of this stuff. That's definitely a key point of the work that we do, is that we want it to be, solid science that is backed up by research. And that's what we're sharing. Yeah.
Wonderful. We're talking with Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farm Alliance. The Minnesota State Fair is going to have some wonderful bird-friendly farming displays at the Eco Experience. Also, there's a lot of stuff there about bees, so we can talk. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Hey, take a
break now.
But I had to take a break a little early because I had this cough. Is there anything we're missing that you want me to get in?
Nothing I can think of. I mean, we could talk more about some of the specific birds that we're highlighting, but other than
I'm sure we'll be fine. I may start with this poem from a listener about Dolly Parton.
Oh, that'd be great. I love that.
Okay, I'm ready, Brett.
All right, sounds good. Let's bring you back in here for the last segment right about now.
Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student of nature-led gardening, and on today's show, we've been talking about bird-friendly farming. There'll be some displays at the Eco Experience at the Minnesota State Fair. There's also a lot of displays about supporting bees and supporting a living food system and a living earth and being happier people. And with us is Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farm Alliance. And before I get back to Courtney, I want to read a poem from an AM 950 listener on Dolly Parton. Who passed this week, Brad Traum. So here's the poem Brad Lynn Traum wrote, Bloom Brightly. The morning dew is brief and bright, a fleeting spark before the night. The clock won't pause, the shadow grows. We only have this hour to show. So let the roots drink deep and bold, break through the dark, the quiet cold. Don't hide the colors you were given. Beneath the wide and shiny and shifting heaven, life is short, the petals fade, the seasons turn, but oh, how firstly they can burn. Unfurl your heart into the light and bloom brightly into the night. A poem written by AM 950 listener Brad Lynn Traum, Bloom Brightly, remembering Dolly Parton. Doesn't that seem appropriate for our conversation today? Is this idea of let the roots drink deep and bold, and how we have a food system that also reflects this innate wonderment and awesomeness of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Cool. Okay, in case someone's just joining us now, share a little bit about the Wild Farm Alliance and the display you're having at the Minnesota State Fair.
Yeah, so we are at the Eco Experience at the State Fair for the next 12 days. That's up at 1615 Randall Avenue, so they're at the kind of north east corner of the State Fair, and we are celebrating all about bird-friendly farming and how helping create habitat for birds on farms is beneficial to farms, how they can help with the pest control, how, during the nesting season, there's so many different birds that are eating insects and rodents, and it's incredible just how much pest control they can do for us. And then that prevents people, farmers from having to use pesticides, and just creates a more healthy ecosystem for everybody.
And this can be done in alignment with conventional farming as well. This is it's not an either or place, right?
Yeah, it's really incredible how everybody loves birds, right? Who doesn't like birds?
I hope so.
There's actually
probably one or two. I mean, I could think of one guy. He happens to be orange, but
but even like the what's cool is that I was on this farm that was a very conventional farm, and I was very, it was a conservation field day, so it should have been, made perfect sense. But I was there and I was like, what are we doing here? Because they had, all these like big tractors and, some even GMO crops that I was like, what's going on here? And then we like rounded the corner and it was like prairie as far as you could see and lined with nest boxes, and the farmer like whipped out his Aldo Leopold and started quoting it. I was like, whoa. And I felt like I had walked into a different dimension momentarily. But yeah, I think, everybody loves birds. There's research that actually shows that hearing bird song has this like effect on humans where we feel safe. Like the bird singing makes us feel safe. And actually like helps calm our own nervous systems in these days. So being out in nature, there's actually really fun. There's a Merlin app. I don't know if you use that, but
no,
it's part of the Cornell Ornithology Lab has the Merlin ID app. So you can actually, if you hear a bird singing and you're like, what is that? You can go out and you can just push the little record button, and then it'll pop up and it'll tell you what birds are singing. It's a really great way to identify what birds are out there in your neighborhood and nearby. Super fun. You can like track over time all the, it's like the gateway into the birding world. If you're interested in that, that's a really great resource. I'm really a big fan of getting out into nature with my phone so that I have those apps readily available so that when I don't know what something is, I can figure it out using iNaturalist and Seek.
I use Seek. Seek has been a fantastic app to kind of learn. So we're down to the last few minutes. I did want to talk a little bit about bird friendly in our urbanscapes, choke cherries and service berries, right, and other things. Of course, there's a whole bunch.
Oh,
but
so many things.
But I remember our ecosystem in the Twin Cities has been horribly affected by buckthorn. And buckthorn was planted by humans because, hey, this stays green for a long time. We should plant this. And that was recommended. But what has the impact been of buckthorn? And what if we could plant service berries, chokecherries, and others instead of buckthorn? What would this world be like?
Definitely. Like, and the challenging part is that the buckthorn, like, it's spread by birds because they like those berries. So we need to give them different foods to eat.
But it's not good for them, just like the fast food's not good for us.
Right, exactly. It's lower in nutrients. But yeah, there's all kinds of native, I mean, you know, pre-colonization Minnesota was full of these, you know, this food forest essentially of all of these different berries and fruits that are native here that can grow here. And you know, the service berries, they're delicious for us to eat too. And you know, the choke cherries, they take a little more sugar and things like that. But there's all kinds of great buckthorn options instead of buckthorn, where, you know, get rid of the buckthorn and definitely put some of those native fruits and shrubs in instead, or even trees. I'm a huge fan of wild plums. I feel like wild plums are so much more reliable than the cultivated plum varieties that we have here. And I say that having, you know, spent 16 years growing probably 24 different varieties of cultivated plums, and man, every year the wild plums were like clockwork. They would produce a super abundant crop, never missed a year, versus like the cultivated plums were really hit or miss. And so yeah.
Yeah, Courtney Cheetah with the Wild Farm Alliance. There'll be a bird-friendly farming display at the Eco Experience in the Minnesota State Fair. Free food samples. You can go on the website. There's things going all day in that Eco Experience in terms of bird-friendly food, farming, and bee-friendly farming. Anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, go up and plant some native plants in your landscape. Put up a nest box. These are tiny little things that we can do and enjoy nature. You know, even just spending a couple minutes wandering around outside and looking at the bees and the insects, it's such a calming effect on all of us, and it's good for everybody.
Yeah. Calming. You don't need to be a plant nerd to get calmed by the life in nature. So have fun. Thank you so much, Courtney Cheetah, and thank you for listening to Food Freedom Radio, Minnesota State Fair, bird friendly, bee friendly farming. Let's make it a tradition.